Hi, I'm a feminist.
Oh no. Why?
I want to get equal rights for women.
You must be pleased with your success.
No.
Why not?
The patriarchy.
The patriarchy?
It means men control everything.
From the beginning of time, our society has always been a male-dominant world. As we progress as a society, there's been major paradigm shifts and a culture change as we see the growth of females in the workplace. Now let's get into the anthropological timeline. 1911. Women in the workplace don't have protection against discrimination. 1920. Women's role in society begins to expand as they enter the workforce during World War II. 1931, 7 million women enter the workforce with 2 million in male industries due to shortage during World War II. 1963, the Equal Pay Act makes it illegal for employers to pay a woman less than a man for the same type of work. 1964, Civil Rights Act bans discrimination on employment based on gender. 1970s, a high increase of women begin to attend colleges and universities. 1978, employment discrimination against pregnant women is banned with the Pregnancy Discrimination Act. 1980s, 49% of all master's degrees and 13% of all doctoral degrees are achieved by women. 1990, the Gulf War was the first time women served in combat. And now, 2012, number of male nurses in the US have increased by the 2/3 over the past 20 years. Now we're going to look at the schools of thought of anthropology and how it relates to gender biases in the workplace through structuralism and functionalism. Structuralism states that humans tend to see things that are opposite to one another, for example, day and night. In this case, men and women are opposite genders, so society creates stereotypes and assumptions to each gender that place them in different categories of fields of work. From the start of society, roles in the workplace were predetermined and broken down by opposite sexes. Now, let's look at functionalism. An anthropologist who adopts a functionalism believes that everything in society exists in order to perform a specific function to keep it functional. Society has built norms for men and women and roles each sex has in society. For example, women tend to be more caring, so they usually end up in fields such as nursing. Meanwhile, men are caring but are perceived as stronger, and industries such as construction are predominantly male-dominated fields.
Now moving on with sociology. Over the decades, you may not have noticed the major shifts in jobs. Jobs that were predominantly known to be more for females are becoming more balanced as we see a high percentage of males getting into these particular work fields. Some are teaching and nursing. But for some reason, why is it that men always tend to make more than women no matter what field of work they are in or if they're in the same position? In the following video, Professor Horowitz explains.
Another contemporary economic myth is that women make 75 cents for every dollar men make because they're discriminated against in labor markets. Like other myths, this does have a kernel of truth to it. So for example, if you add up all the incomes of women and divide by the number of women in the labor force, and then do the same thing for men, what you'll find is on average, women do make about 75% of what men do. What's happening here is not discrimination in the labor market, but differences in the choices that men and women make about investing in their knowledge, their education, their skills, and their job experience that lead to them getting paid different salaries. Economists talk about people's human capital. By human capital, we mean the knowledge, the skills, the education, and the job experience that people have. And economics argues that people get paid wages according to that human capital. It turns out that men and women invest very differently in their human capital. And we can see that in 4 different ways. First of all, educational choices. Men, for example, tend to go into fields like engineering. Women tend to go into social sciences, into psychology, into nursing. And so where men are making higher salaries as engineers or perhaps in the business world, women tend to end up in jobs in which their salaries are somewhat lower. So even though they may have the same years of schooling, the different choices they've made about their majors lead to them working in different areas and getting paid differently.
So according to Professor Horowitz, the education that you choose to pursue has a big determination on what kind of money you will make in the future. Men, more than likely choosing to go into engineering or business, will make more money than females who choose to study psychology, humanities, or nursing. But what about the females who work in the same exact categories as males doing the same exact things? I guess it's always been a man's world, just until World War I and II. During both wars, women proved that they are capable of working jobs typically employed by men to keep the economy running. Between 1984 and 2009, the number of working women in America increased from 44 million to 72 million. Throughout, women haven't stopped fighting for their equality. Now let's get into psychology. So the human mind is broken up into two parts, the conscious and the unconscious. So the unconscious includes the id, the superego, and the ego. So let's break down this real-life situation under Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory. So a woman wants to move up in her position at Walmart and become a store hand manager. She knows of the gender discrimination in Walmart corporations and that she's up against males. She wants a higher income to support her family and believes that she has the experience and knowledge to get the job. Next is the id, the physical satisfaction. The woman wants to be promoted and make more money for herself and her family. Next is the superego, moral choice in situations. The woman thinks this over. She is aware that Walmart has been noted for systematically underpaying and underpromoting females. The woman knows that this is wrong, so she chooses to apply for the job and prove that she has the experience for the job regardless of her gender. She plans on filing a complaint if she does not get the job. And lastly, the ego, which acts as a referee. As much as the woman wants to be promoted and get an increase in pay, she decides to apply but not file a complaint if she does not get the job. She does not want to ruin her only income. She believes that her job is better than no job. Now let's take a look at the Heidi versus Howard experiment. So, researchers from Columbia's business school asked students to appraise the resume of an entrepreneur called Howard. His resume showed that Mr. Howard had worked at Apple and launched his own software company. It was a magnificent resume. The interesting part of this experiment was that Mr. Howard did not exist. When students were asked to review the true owner of the resume, Miss Heidi, they judged her to be more selfish and pretty much less desirable than Mr. Howard. So the only thing this proves is that successful women are really less likable than successful men.
Even though society has faced several obstacles dealing with gender biases, we're improving and breaking down barriers for opposite sexes. For example, on January 3rd, CNN did a segment on how the Marines changed their testing system to help women ratios of women in the Marines to rise. Part of the testing was to do 8 pull-ups, but from the low number of women being able to do it, it was lowered to 3. The number of women passing was still low, so they are currently deciding whether to take it out in general for women.
Gender biases has been in the workplace for as long as men and women have been working. This includes women being discriminated and men being discriminated, all depending on the environment in which they work. The goal is for there to one day be no stereotypes around being a specific gender for a job. Equal effort should always equal the same rewards.